This is the Yanks Go Yard podcast with Adam Weinrib and Thomas Carinante.
Welcome on into the Yanks Go Yard podcast. I'm Adam Weinrib alongside Thomas Carinante. The Los Angeles Dodgers are the best team in the world, in the universe, we've ever seen. They've signed so many top-tier free agents that they signed another one between the time we commissioned a graphic this morning for this podcast and the time that we're going live on this podcast. Roki Sasaki, we all knew he signed on Friday night. Tanner Scott, we had a suspicion, but who can say he signed over the weekend? Hai-Sung Kim, when the Dodgers signed him, that's when I was like, all right, guys, like you didn't know who Hai-Sung Kim was 3 weeks ago. You're not allowed to say that baseball is rigged now because the Dodgers signed someone that you just learned about who may or may not be a light-hitting middle infielder. But this morning, Kirby Yates is in intensifying discussions with the Dodgers. Their payroll is going to be like $385 million. With the tax, I think they're going to be over $500 million. And they do not care about that. And that's tough stuff. No one wants to have to face the Dodgers to win the World Series, but at least you want to wait until the World Series to have to see them. You don't want to be in the National League with the Dodgers looming in your path to a pennant. You want to see them. You want to hope that some National League team takes care of them, and then you get them in the World Series. All that to say, why did Juan Soto go to the Mets? We'll talk about the Dodgers moves. None of them have any implications on, like, it's not like they're taking players from the Yankees plate, although there was one implication of the Tanner Scott move that could come back to haunt the Yankees next winter. We'll discuss that. Plus, Blue Jays corner Anthony Santander in Toronto. I think we all knew that was probably coming. They got it done. They didn't really overpay. Nolan Arenado trade talks back wide open. And again, why are we even bothering to talk about any of the ramifications on the Yankees as long as the Dodgers exist? Shouldn't this just be a Dodgers podcast? Why are any other local fans tuning in to Major League Baseball this year? If the Yankees are still your villain, like if you still can't get out of 2002, like at this point, I don't know what to tell you. Like if you're still like, you guys suck equally, like the Yankees and Dodgers buy everyone. Oh, no, my friend. No. The Dodgers buy everyone. Hubris, the Yankees bought everyone from like 2002 to 2009, and it only worked at the very end. So if you're looking for a silver lining, the Yankees definitely wasted a lot of time buying Kevin Brown and getting Randy Johnson and Kei Igawa and Carl Pavano and Jason Giambi and Gary Sheffield. And man, those teams were thin and overrated. We'll talk about all of this. Thomas Carinante, welcome to the show. It's a loose, free-flowing conversation twice a week. This is a Tuesday at 2 o'clock Eastern, not a Monday, typically Monday and Thursday, but it's 2 o'clock Eastern on a Tuesday today. I think we're just going to try. I think a lot of people are having mental breakdowns about the Dodgers. Feels good to be in the American League right about now. I just think we can have fun and discuss it because it is reality. They are, with every signing, it does get a little bit more ludicrous that nobody else wants to participate. Yankees did a lot this winter too, but not this. They didn't do this.
Look, if you know me, I like to have fun. So we're talking baseball. That's all we can do at this point. There are a lot of broken brains out there, which it's just frustrating because if you have watched this sport and if you have taken into account how rare repeat champions are or how rare it is to even have success after a World Series winning season, like resounding success after a World Series winning season, then you shouldn't be as down in the dumps about the Dodgers as most of you are. And look, am I jealous to an extent? Absolutely. Because I would love if the Yankees just went and did their thing. The whole goal of being the Yankees is this. They built their pedigree up in the 90s after, one of the darkest periods of any franchise had maybe in the history of the sport. If you guys watched that Bronx Zoo documentary, like really bad times for the Yankees from the mid 80s until the mid 90s. Not good.
Not good.
They managed to rise from the embers thanks to an organizational restructure because of George Steinbrenner being banned from baseball.
Yeah.
And then they became a destination again for everybody. And that was when the Yankees capitalized. I mean, look, a lot of the misconception with the Yankees' success in those years was that they just signed everybody, and that just wasn't true. They mostly got their players via draft and trades and player development. It wasn't until the 2000s where they started paying people, and guess what? It didn't fucking work until 2009.
Yeah,
So,
99, they go get Roger Clemens. Like 98, they signed Chuck Knobloch. And if you want to say that the Yankees signing Chuck Knobloch broke baseball, then you're welcome to have that opinion.
Yeah.
You are totally, you can say that out loud.
I
Just
love
know
that
that
opinion.
you're going to get bullied for it if you say it. But yeah, the Yankees went nuts and bothered everyone at the exact period where they were regressing and like unable to gel, and bringing in A-Rod and bringing in Sheffield and picking wrong and not signing Vlad Guerrero and never having any pitching, like signing Carl Pavano and Jarrett Wright. And the 2005 team makes the playoffs, but they're only on the strength of Sean Chacon and Aaron Small. Like, baseball's weird. Nothing about what the Dodgers are doing guarantees them anything at all, but it certainly does. Look, they should be the most despised team, individual team in the history of baseball. If they're not, then what are we doing here? You're allowed to acknowledge that they should take advantage of the financial strengths. And also, you should be allowed to hate them at the same time. I don't see any issue with what the Dodgers are doing, but I don't like it. And I also think the idea, the misguided notion that any team can do this is insane.
Of course.
Any team can add deferrals to contracts. The Yankees just did with Santander. I think more teams are exploring that with every deal they sign, but no other teams can sign the most prominent Japanese superstar that unlocks an entire side of the world and wants to play Miami Heat 2012 with his friends from the Japanese national team. And also his earning power is so impressive that he can defer $680 million of his $700 million contract into the deep future because he does not care, because the endorsement money is flowing. Like, Juan Soto was never going to do that. And Juan Soto is one of the top 5 biggest names in baseball. And there was no chance you were getting him to agree to that. And that's not because he's a bad teammate. It's because Juan Soto doesn't own half of the globe. So the Dodgers are also owned by a cabal of billionaires. Like, the Yankees are owned by the Steinbrenner family, and they don't reinvest nearly the profits they should into this team. And there's room for growth, but there aren't 8 independent Steinbrenners who are just like, we have so many revenue streams. You're not going to believe it. This is just one of the things that we own. We're going to make them incredible. And if I don't have money, this guy does. And if we defer the money, then in 20 years after we're all dead, someone else who buys this team is going to have to pay that money. So every team can spend more aggressively. And you look at the Pirates running like a $60 million payroll, and they've only signed a multi-year free agent under Bob Nutting once. Like, you look at that and you're like, that team's embarrassing. But then you look at the Yankees and Dodgers and go, the Yankees have a huge payroll, but also the Dodgers are just choking the life out of the open market by, deciding that they're never done. And this is not the wrong way to go about things. The bullpen was a little bit weak, so they signed Tanner Scott and probably are about to sign Kirby Yates because Michael Kopech's hurt. And hopefully they're thinking they won't have to do much of anything at the deadline because they're doing it all now. And that's great. But
they might have to because they have too many players.
They will have to. The pitchers are going to get hurt. Look at it's crazy. It's just crazy to see the Dodgers in the headlines every week, but you look at the rotation. Are you going to guarantee me that Ohtani's going to throw more than 100 innings this year? I'm not going to guarantee anybody that. Yamamoto found his Snell. Is he going to be good for more than 140? I liked Yamamoto down the stretch a lot, but I don't have more than like 3 weeks of data that he's clearly a top tier ace. Tyler Glasnow has never had a season. He's never participated in a full baseball season. Roki Sasaki is 23. And the question he proposed as homework to every team looking to sign him was, why is my velocity decreasing? Solve my problem for me. The Dodgers also injure every young pitcher they have. They're all hurt now. So my faith in Roki Sasaki, being intact at the end of the year, low. Now, this shouldn't really affect the Dodgers' chances of repeating. The chances are enormous. They have 14 pitchers who they can reliably slot into these innings. They're going to be able to sign Clayton Kershaw and they're going to be able to use Clayton Kershaw the way the Yankees are using Marcus Stroman for like 80 innings next year, randomly in August, and then into the playoffs. Like, they're going to have so many luxuries, but it's not airtight. And they don't have any holes at this moment in time. But a lot of what they're doing is insurance, because they're going to have holes as the year goes on. They're just going to be deeper than everybody else. I think the Dodgers have created a stupid roster, and their participation this offseason has been deeply stupid. But when you have tapped into that Japanese pipeline and you are the defending champion and everybody knows that you have been the model organization for the last 10 years, then yeah, you get to reap the benefits of that. And the group of billionaires owning the team does not hurt.
Yeah. I mean, they're not. Another point to make is they're not ruining baseball. These are the rules that have existed for quite some time. If you guys remember back when the Nationals signed Max Scherzer, they deferred payments on his contract. That was like 2010. And we were like, what? Deferring payments? What does this mean? As an adult, like, the Bobby Bonilla stuff was so long ago. But like in terms of modern day contracts, that was like one of the bigger ones that made national headlines, and you're like, oh, wow. So, okay. So I think they're paying Max Scherzer into like the 2030s, I believe. But in terms of ruining the sport, of course they're not ruining this. The Dodgers are going to pay for this sooner or later. So whether it's mortgaging the near term for the future or vice versa, or however you want to do it, like, this is all going to come back to hurt them in some way. And I'm not saying that it's all doomsday. It's just like there's going to come a point in time where it's going to be too much money to, in the 2030s when they're on the hook for paying guys who don't play for them anymore. It's going to be tough to factor that in. For now, though, if you're winning and you have the recruiting edge, which you have in Shohei Ohtani, you do it. Like, look, this is not even the Dodgers' fault. Like, if the Angels had just went in on Shohei Ohtani as aggressively as the Dodgers did, we could be having a different conversation right now. They just decided not to.
What are they doing?
Yeah. They decided to not pay the money for Shohei Ohtani. And who did? The Dodgers. And who's benefiting it? It's the Dodgers. And you also look at the rest of baseball, right? All the other owners or ownership groups, there's plenty more with equal or more money than the Dodgers. Steve Cohen, richest owner in baseball, worth $16 billion. The Rogers, is it one guy or is it a group of people? I don't know. In Toronto, $11.5 billion.
I think they're like James Dolan, but if James Dolan was cool.
Yeah. Braves owner, $6.6 billion. Lerner family, Nationals, $6.6 billion. Speaking of the Dolans, the Guardians, $4.6 billion. Hal Steinbrenner is like number 8 or 9 on this list at $3.8 billion. And I know it matters in terms of how much the team brings in revenue, but all it takes is a few big signings to get more fans in the stands. Like, the Padres are a perfect example of that. The Padres never had a top attendance in Major League Baseball. AJ Preller built the foundation since Manny Machado in 2018 or 2019, and they've slowly reaped the benefits. Of the Padres win a World Series? No, but they've redefined San Diego being a destination and players wanting to go there. And if the CBA says you can defer money and give out signing bonuses, then these owners or ownership groups are going to take advantage of that in the short term, especially when you look at the rest of the league and you see how players inexplicably regress year over year, or someone hits their, look at someone like DJ LeMahieu. Like, say if DJ LeMahieu was a bigger player at the time, like more integral to the Yankees' success than you could have ever imagined. The Yankees decided to make him, one of the cornerstones of the franchise and, a $200 million deal. Let's say he was that much better. And then he just gets injured and then he turns 35 and then he can't play anymore. Like, this is why the Dodgers are taking advantage of this window, because they don't know when Mookie Betts' regression is going to come. They don't know when Freddie Freeman's regression is going to come. And they're trying to ensure against all of that. And they're extending these contracts out a little bit longer. You see the Will Smith deal is 10 years. They're doing that to help out against the near-term luxury tax implications. And the fact is that they won a World Series. They're getting all this international revenue from Japan, and they can afford to pay a $500 million payroll in whatever it is. And when you have the highest attendance in baseball, which they do, which they have for the last decade, then that gives you the luxury to do it. They're renovating Dodger Stadium. The list goes on and on. So I'm never going to fault a team for spending, especially because, again, which side of their argument are you on? Are you, I'm against spending. It's not fair that these teams get to spend, or are you, this is bullshit. My billionaire owner doesn't spend and I'm sitting here watching my shit team. I'm stuck here watching the Guardians because they don't spend. It's like, can't argue both ways. You got to, if you're against billionaires not spending, then you can't be against billionaire spending. So again, as jealous as I am to watch these moves be made by the Dodgers, it's fair game. And if the Yankees want to take advantage of it, then guess what? Start mining the Dominican Republic a little bit more for talent. Start creating a pipeline there. Maybe if you had kept Juan Soto and figured out a way to keep him in the fold, that would have opened up the doors to other Dominican players. Maybe that opens the door to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. next year. I don't know. Either way, we've seen the Yankees fumble many a situation. We've seen them hand out contracts to the wrong players. I love what the Dodgers are doing. They're giving contracts to all the right players. The Yankees give the contracts to all the wrong players. So I can't even be mad. And the one silver lining here about the Dodgers is that, great, someone else is doing this. Okay. All the pressure is going to be on them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying the Yankees have no pressure, but like now you want to talk World Series or bust? That's on the Dodgers. That is the Dodgers for the next 5 to 10 years. That is not the Yankees. That is not the Mets. Not even close. Like the Mets at this point, like I don't even know if they're a top 6 team. Truly. So the Dodgers want to keep putting the spotlight on them. They want the international recognition. They want the short-term spotlight and all that. Like, great. That takes pressure off my team. It makes the regular season a little bit more quiet. And then when the postseason rolls around, all eyes are going to be on the Dodgers and a wonky 5-game NLDS. And can they get past this team with good pitching? Whereas I don't have to worry about that anymore. The Yankees can just go about their business and that'll be that. So I'm hoping the Yankees they make a couple of moves. There are a few more things to do on the table. And I think they kind of have to do it because if you're looking at the way the league is structured right now, like the path is cleared for the Yankees in the AL once again, even without Juan Soto. And I don't know who is beating the Dodgers in the NL unless they have a cavalcade of injuries that they can't recover from. So let the Dodgers pile on the pressure when the World Series comes and the Yankees have an inferior roster. Everyone's going to be picking the Dodgers. And then, you see how all that goes when the analysts and talking heads all they're focusing on is your team and your core star players. If there's any silver lining to take out of it, it's that. We've been in that position before and it's not pleasant.
Yeah. And it was 3 months ago that Mookie Betts was the number 1 playoff choker. Like, yeah. 3 for 40 in the postseason. Then he had a couple of good weeks or good enough weeks while Freddie Freeman went supernova and then the Dodgers were the World Series champions. Last year was the year to get the Dodgers. The Padres had the Dodgers and then they let them off the hook.
Let's not forget the Padres forgot how to play baseball for 30 innings. And that's why the Dodgers blame the Padres. Blame them. The Dodgers could have been out in the NLDS and they would have been fucking dead. Yeah. No one would have wanted to go to them after that.
Moment of coronation was there for the Padres, and then they didn't score for the remainder of the series and lost 2 more games. Dodgers took it from them, but the Padres were awful. I see Dodgers fan in our comments. I unfortunately have to break the news to you that on our streaming platform, I cannot read any of the emojis that you've typed out. So it just looks like you've written text, and it looks like you're a crazy person. So joke's on you, but obviously you're having a very good time, although you might be in the wrong podcast because we're giving you credit, though you can laugh and smile with your trophy as much as you'd like. The real joke here, though, of course, and also the deals the Dodgers have signed, like the Tanner Scott contract is an obvious overpay. Obvious. It doesn't matter. If you have the money, make the overpay.
Yes.
So, what the
Yankees did it. Max Fried overpaid, needed to make the signing, did it.
It's been done, but if the Cubs that's the other, you're talking about, people are mad at billionaires for not spending and people are also mad at billionaires for spending. The Dodgers go out and spend, $72 million on 4 years of Tanner Scott. And then every Cubs fan is like, I cannot believe that the Dodgers outbid us again. And it's like, if the Cubs, for better or worse, spent $68 to $70 million on Tanner Scott, then they would be raked over the coals and hamstrung. Like, Cubs fans would be furious at the end of the year that they had all that money sunk into Tanner Scott just to beat the Dodgers. Let the Dodgers sign bullpen pieces. One of my favorite comments of all time before we move on. Who's next, Mr. Ass? I don't know who you're talking about me, but I don't know what you mean. But I might frame that. So I'm actually going to screenshot that and make it my Twitter banner photo. So thank you for that. The real point here, though, is you mentioned the Mets. Juan Soto leaves the Yankees for this world historic contract with Steve Cohen, and he does not have the international earning power of Ohtani, and he does not have this international pipeline, and you probably need an international, like, I don't want an international draft. I don't like the fairness of a draft, but there's really no inherent advantage to Juan Soto at this point in time. To having him on your team and recruitment purposes and, whatever. It doesn't open up a pipeline that you didn't have already. If Juan Soto is not staying in the American League and he's just chasing that huge lump sum of money with the New York Mets and intentionally inviting the Dodgers into his path just to get to the World Series, not to win it every year, why did Juan Soto choose the Mets? And why didn't Juan Soto choose $600 million with the Los Angeles Dodgers? If you're going to send yourself into the National League, why would you not go to the team that is the clear and present favorite for the next 4-5 years minimum in the National League? Maybe we'll eventually view him as a hero. Maybe he will lead the Mets and take down the Dodgers in an NLCS, and we'll say, wow, good. That's what an exciting, great decision by Juan Soto. He bet on himself. But in reality, though, it really does look like he took an overwhelming payday. Based on what we know, the Yankees were in the lead for Juan Soto's services until late on Saturday or late on Sunday when Steve Cohen came through with this updated offer. So it seems like Juan Soto just chose the biggest pile of money, and that's great. I would have chosen $600 million with the Dodgers, so I wouldn't have had to worry about this.
Yeah, there's no way he could have foresaw the Dodgers doing all of this, and I don't know if the Dodgers were going to offer that much money, right? Was there a rumor of them offering $600 million?
Yeah, there was a rumor of them going for $600 million, but not quite that high.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess. But look, we would have been having the conversation of Juan Soto being a sellout for going to the World Series champion who just beat his team. So I think there is at least some honor in his decision where he goes to trailblaze his own path with the Mets, who are historically, a moribund franchise. And if he can dig them out of the depths, then he becomes a legend. And it also doesn't hurt that he has a potential earning power of $805 million on that contract, which is the largest ever in sports history. But yeah, I mean, you look at his situation now, Steve Cohen's going to have to start exercising that Dodgers power, because what's the lone advantage the Mets have? He's the richest owner in baseball. So they're going to need someone like Bregman. They're going to need someone like who else is available? Who's that other big name? It's Bregman and
is Nolan Arenado a big name? What do we
no, Pete Alonso. Who they
that guy. Yeah, they need somebody like a Pete Alonso type, maybe. Best of luck. Good job, Mets.
But yeah, I mean, it's tough all around, and I don't know if this makes the Yankees look worse for letting Juan Soto go, because I'm not sure the Yankees. Again, it's tough because of what the Yankees' problems last year derived from defense and fundamentals. And I know Juan Soto elevated them on the offensive end to a degree that they maybe might not ever see again, but they weren't going to be able to tighten any of that up without having to change their outfield alignment. So I really don't know. In my opinion, once again, it all comes back to the poor spending that this organization has done for years. I mean, I look back, the Braves signed Chasen Shreve yesterday, former Yankees reliever.
We should have gotten in. Where were we on that? We're so broke we can't bring back Chasen Shreve? That's ridiculous.
He can't ride the Scranton shuttle, but he was traded for Luke Voit back in 2018. And if you remember, Luke Voit was a fairly legendary Yankee. I mean, he dominated after coming at the trade deadline. 2019, he was really good, but dealt with some hernia issues and missed some time. And then 2020, he was the home run champ. And then he dealt with some injuries in the first half of 2021. And the Yankees said, fuck off. And they acquired Anthony Rizzo. And then they dumped Luke Voit off into nothing. And they traded him to the Padres. And then they spent $60 million on Anthony Rizzo, who did essentially nothing but hurt this team with his declining play and his own injuries and his lack of athleticism. And it's just like, what are we doing, man? We're paying Anthony Rizzo $60-something million when you had a cheaper option in Luke Voit, who was essentially the same player. And the only reason you got rid of him was because you didn't have enough lefties on the fucking roster. Like, what? You couldn't make room for Luke Voit to take DH reps when he was hitting the shit out of the ball. So, I mean, you go back to the Giancarlo Stanton contract, which forced them to stop spending. You got this Marcus Stroman deal that's prohibiting them spending this year. You have the DJ LeMahieu contract, which they decided to spread out over 6 years when they probably could have done 4 and just had it at an elevated rate. So it all comes back to that. And I know the Dodgers have had their financial problems of, back in the mid 2010s or whatever it was. And the Mets just had their grapple with the luxury tax threshold, and they had the highest payroll in baseball. 2 years ago, when they had essentially no team, literally no team. They had to trade the highest paid players away.
The Verlander Scherzer brainstorm here. They're like, let's just say we're going to pay some 38-year-olds, which, by the way, Kirby Yates, like, I think he'll be a great fit in the Dodgers bullpen. He is also 38 years old and coming off the best season of his life last year, and reliever volatility is what it is. And he had a 3.28 ERA the year before in 2023. And this is a very good signing. But if you are losing your mind over the Dodgers adding Kirby Yates, in reality, you just kind of have to laugh, because when you see someone else is joining the Dodgers, it's just kind of like, there's more room for more people. I guess it's kind of crazy that there's more room. But if Kirby Yates is your breaking point, like, there's a good chance that they could have gotten, or you could have gotten, your team, whatever your team is, could get the same value of Kirby Yates at the trade deadline. There will be Kirby Yateses available. You can go ahead and counter that move yourself. But it is just very funny to see another name you recognize, and I don't even have to read to the end of this tweet. It says Dodgers. Oh, wait, it does actually. Like, the jokes are like, I was like, Grimace signs with the Dodgers a couple days ago. I was like, oh, that's kind of funny, right? Like, it's no longer, it was like 3 days. We passed the breaking point where such and such joins the Dodgers. Jokes are no longer funny, because it's just legitimately what is happening.
What is happening? I don't know. So the Dodgers get Sasaki. The Dodgers get Tanner Scott. And yeah, like you said, the Tanner Scott deal essentially takes the Yankees out of the running for any Devin Williams contract extension and look, I don't care, because I don't want a closer for $20+ million. We already did that experiment with Aroldis Chapman and Zach Britton, and they were both just infuriating to watch. Yeah. I understand that they were good relief pitchers, and perhaps underappreciated, but again, all that comes down to here is, if you're playing for someone like the Royals and you make the playoffs once every 5 years, and regular season performance matters because you want to see your team succeed in some capacity, then that's great. Like, that's where Zach Britton and Aroldis Chapman would shine. The second the calendar flipped to October, both melted down in the biggest moments possible and made life exponentially more difficult for this team. So I don't want to pay a closer any more money. We warned Mets fans about Edwin Diaz, and I understand that we couldn't foresee him rupturing his Achilles in the World Baseball Classic, but
I predicted that. I knew that was going to happen.
to pay one guy who's pitching 60 innings a year, $20+ million is just, it's deranged. And it has nothing to do with me thinking that player deserves that money or not. Again, if you are the Dodgers and you could spend that money, then do it. Great. The Yankees don't act like the Yankees, so I don't want them to spend that money, and I don't want them to do it. But yeah, now becomes an uncomfortable situation with Devin Williams, who will be gunning for 80 to 90 million in his next contract in this year when he's about to hit free agency. And it very much prices him out of the Yankees range unless something drastically changes, right? Like, this is a one and done year, which is concerning, because now the Yankees are going after all these one and done players, and they kind of don't have an identity, I want to say, outside of just Aaron Judge existing. And then Aaron Judge existing, Garrett Cole existing, and then Giancarlo Stanton being here every so often, and then everybody else either sucking or just not being a Yankees player. They're just from somewhere else.
Yeah, the flip side of all this flexibility is that they are going to need to fill all these holes again next year.
Again, it's every year.
Because Paul Goldschmidt, intentionally a one-year deal, and it should have been, and I'm glad it was, but yes. I have no idea who the first baseman is in 2026. Maybe it's Murakami. Probably it isn't. So, and closers, to be fair, though, when they got Devin Williams, I'm glad somebody asked him, would you be willing to extend? It was nice to hear him talk about that in the intro press conference. At no point was I like, wow, we just got our closer for the next 6 years, because
no.
Volatility exists, injuries exist. And the Yankees, I mean, they've paid Zach Britton, not a closer with the Yankees. They paid Aroldis Chapman, and it's wild that they did, but they did. Also,
Twice.
that was a long time ago in the span of, that was how the Yankees were operating in 2018-19. That is not now. It's been a while. They took care of Mariano Rivera his whole life, but that's Mariano Rivera. They paid Andrew Miller, who was a setup man at the time. And that was interesting, and that was great value because he became a closer. And that was like a 3-year, $38 million deal or whatever. And today he'd be paid Tanner Scott money, and they wouldn't pay that. So when they got Devin Williams, even without this Tanner Scott contract setting a new precedent, at no point was I like, well, they're obviously going to come to terms on something that makes sense. Because it was going to be 4 years, and it was going to be 16, 17. But now that Tanner Scott has 18, it's got to be 20. Are the Yankees paying 4 years, $80 million for Devin Williams, $82 million for Devin Williams? Are they basically paying half of the Max Fried contract, just same AAV, less length for a closer? I highly doubt it. The issue here, you're talking about turnover. Luke Weaver also a free agent at the end of the year. Right now, they have the best bargain ever on Luke Weaver at $2.5 million for 2025. And I think he'll benefit from being bumped out of the closer role because we know he can be a closer if they need to. And last year, especially in the postseason, they went to Weaver every single day. And it was very annoying because when they didn't have Weaver, they had Holmes and Canely, but they also didn't really because they would go to all three guys every single time they used Weaver. So they would have games in the playoffs where they had to rely on Mark Leiter Jr. and like fourth inning guys. So the goal is obviously to have hopefully playoff games where Devin Williams closes, then Devin Williams closes game 2 as well. Then he's unavailable for game 3. And here's Luke Weaver for 2 innings at the end of the game. That would be fantastic. Unfortunately, neither of them is under contract beyond this year. So big audition year for Weaver. The versatility he added last year will really help. It will also help him get paid. He did it on a national stage in the postseason and in the World Series. So I would love to be able to retain one of those two people in perpetuity. But I don't think it's going to be the one they just traded for. And I don't think it's going to be the one whose earning power has been increased over the past couple of weeks and was already at a point where I never thought the Yankees were going to extend Devin Williams.
Did you know Devin Williams won Rookie of the Year pitching 27 innings?
Well, in 2020, right?
Was it 2020?
I thought.
Oh, so. Damn, it was. Damn, my mind was about to be blown. Alec Boehm came in. I was about to say, this is an all-time awful rookie class.
It really is.
Devin Williams with a .3 ERA and .63 whip in 27 innings. And then it was Alec Boehm. And all these guys have like won wars. And I'm like, what were they doing? And what they were doing is they were playing a third of a season, folks. Yeah. So learn how to do your fucking research. But yeah, he's a former Rookie of the Year. Other issue with Devin Williams is whatever injuries I guess he dealt with last year. But yeah, I mean, I'm not on board with paying somebody all that money. Again, if you are going to use that as a way to stop spending elsewhere, which the Dodgers have not. The Dodgers said, okay, great. Where are we missing? We have some question marks in the bullpen, especially in the back end, and we have some injuries. Great. $72 million, make it happen. Now, we don't have that problem, at least for this year. And if we get 2 good years out of Tanner Scott, then we're probably cooking, and that's all we need. So, I mean, that's the luxury, man. That's the luxury, and they're exercising it, and we're sitting here wondering who our closer is going to be in 2026, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And being told to weep and cry more or whatever. More. Dodgers fans have experienced grief. I don't really need to tell them how 2021 and 2019 and 2018 and 2017 and 2023 and 2022 ended. They remember that, I think. So it's always around the corner for y'all. You can't run so far that it's not possible to experience bad times. But yeah, people don't like you and they shouldn't. But you should keep doing what you're doing. You should keep doing what you're doing, and then people got to beat you on the field. I'm happy to be in the American League. It'll be nice to watch some teams take a crack at you before we ever get a chance. I don't want to play in a weak American League. I don't like that pejorative, but at the same time, I like going to the World Series. And you have a better chance of going to the World Series in the American League than you do in the National League where the Dodgers reside, and that's sick. I think that's sick. I'm going to do Jugjin now as the comment section.
Jugdy.
Dude, we should do a Jug D segment. Have we done that? I don't know if it's in the rundown for today. Maybe come back on Thursday, 2:00 Eastern. We'll see you there.
Maybe Anthony Santander is a Jug D segment. What do we think?
I think Anthony Santander is a lot like if Aaron Judge's name was misspelled and he was worse. So, yeah, I think he's a little Jug D. The Blue Jays signed Anthony Santander, which I did not think was possible or illegal considering he followed the Yankees on Instagram last month.
Was that?
How's that allowed? He followed the Yankees on Instagram. I thought that was a done deal. Anyway, Toronto was always going to find someone to take their money. 5 years, $92.5 million with an escalator that could take it to 110 to the Yankees in a 6th year. That was never going to happen for Santander. Power bat, switch hitter, good. Positionless, bad. And OBP, bad. Brief haters corner. Toronto is very obviously the team that's like the Red Sox of last year and also of this year, where their fans whine and cry and stomp their feet. And national insiders start defending the fans and saying, like, enough is enough. Ownership needs to step up now. And then ownership does step up, and they're in the playoff race the whole year. And at the end of the offseason, you're like, why was everybody crying? They got Andres Jimenez and Anthony Santander and Pete Alonso and Jurickson Profar. Like, why were national media members writing, like, sympathy columns? Like, why did Jeff Passan tweet, sorry, Toronto, after Roki Sasaki chose the Dodgers, which we always knew he was going to do, but didn't tweet, sorry, San Diego, a city full of better fans and a team that was supposed to get Roki Sasaki? They were actually lined up to get him. The Blue Jays were a surprise finalist in the group of 3. And then the Padres had an ownership battle pop up at the last minute, and their deceased owner's wife is yelling at their deceased owner's brothers, and they're going to have to sell off pieces. Like, again, 3 months after they almost upended the Dodgers in the playoffs. Like, it's really sorry Padres, not sorry Blue Jays. I don't understand why you're.
I guess because technically the Blue Jays became the second finalist. The Padres were eliminated, so I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Padres fans spent months building it up, though, and
yeah, the Padres' interest was much more extensive and, in my opinion, real. And then the Blue Jays kind of came in at the last minute. They were like, oh, you're a finalist. And they're like, holy shit, we're a finalist. And then they were like, oh, man, what else do we have to do to figure this out? And they're like, actually, nothing. He's going to the Dodgers. And they're like, fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. But, look, I am not hating on this Santander move for the Blue Jays. It's just they had no other option. They whiffed on so many other free agents. They failed to trade for guys who maybe they might have overpaid for, maybe not. I don't know. But the amount of impact guys that they were in the running for and didn't get, it was like kind of for the Yankees, the best case scenario that they landed Santander, because you're essentially paying $19 million a year for a DH because he can't play defense, or you're paying $19 million a year for an aging player who can't play defense if he's playing both sides of the ball. And again, it's an impact player. It makes the Blue Jays better. Absolutely. Yes. But this is not the kind of move that like convinces Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to stay. It makes the Blue Jays older. Like, Santander is going into his age 30 season. He's only had 3 full MLB seasons up until this point in his career. Again, doesn't get on base, just hits home runs and doubles, which is great. But there's a limitation to his game, and the Blue Jays need, in my opinion, more than that. And again, this is like it's a version of a consolation prize. And even with that, like, they still ended up paying the premium. Like, Santander was always projected to get anywhere in between like 90 and 110 million if you were looking at the offseason predictions and all that jazz. and they didn't really get a discount on it. Like if they landed him for like 75 million, you'd be like, okay, now we're talking. But they pretty much got him where all the markets predicted it. So it wasn't like, oh, a consolation prize for cheaper. No, it was a consolation prize that was just as expensive and not really as impactful. So I think it's a win for the Yankees in some sense, because they're going to be bogged down by this contract in 2-3 years. Because I'm not sure he's going to be able to sustain what he's doing. And especially if he's just a DH, like fine, if you're paying for a DH, then whatever, like that's supposed to be the position that you cycle in and out of to create lineup flexibility. As we've seen with the Yankees, they've married Giancarlo Stanton to the position, so it limits what the Yankees can do on the field, and it affects their play very much. And obviously, when he's performing to the best of his abilities, it's a very different lineup, but that's not always the case. And, again, an imperfect player, like doesn't hit for average at all, doesn't get on base at all. And, 114 OPS plus for his career, like not really spectacular. Maybe he turns it up for the next 3 years, and his 44 homer season last year was no joke, and he's going to build off of it. But more times than not, it feels like in these situations, like when you put up those numbers in a contract year, they just don't translate to what teams expect it to for the length of the contract. And 5 years is a long time. That's taken him to, and like, am I wrong to say this? But like, isn't his value hitting from the left side of the plate? Everyone keeps calling him a switch hitter, but I feel like and the reason I could have seen this was because he only had 180 plate appearances as a right-handed bat. So I don't know if I'm calling that like I don't know if I'm considering that like immense value as a switch hitter. Are you, or am I being stupid?
It's moderate value. I mean, it's not Oswaldo Cabrera. It's more value than Oswaldo Cabrera just being incompetent on one side of the plate and great on the other. But
like, it's not like he's like what Francisco Lindor was.
And he also has, again, in 2002, people would be lining up to pay Anthony Santander this money. Yeah. Now they're not, because they love the home runs. They do not like the OBP. They do not like the defensive package, and they think that this is in the same way that we sort of would look at Luis Arraez and be like, he's hitting 340 every year, and people would be like, but the power is minimal. Here, it's like, well, here's the power for you, but he doesn't get on base. He's not the big slugging behemoth who's on base at a 370, 380 clip. Yeah. He's also hitting 40 home runs, and also last year just happened to be his best power output. But the point you made earlier, none of this matters until Vlad Guerrero Jr. signs an extension, is none of this matters until Vlad Guerrero Jr. signs an extension. And when they needed a group of Blue Jays to come and pitch Roki Sasaki last week, they got Chad Green and Dalton Varsho and Bo Bichette, who maybe has 2 full feet out the door in Toronto. Yeah. Like the rumors were that Bichette was telling friends, like, quote, I do not want to be here. It's not even one of those inscrutable player quotes where you have to figure out, like, what does he mean? Like Paul Skeens at the Pirates Fest when they're like, have you had extension talks? And he's like, yeah, not really at this point. Obviously it's taking it day by day. You got to look at things from so many angles. It's like a hexagon of emotions. And you're like, what is he talking about? Bo Bichette just being like, I do not want to be here. It's like, okay, great. He's not going to be here. And he's in the mix trying to pitch Roki Sasaki on Toronto, but Vlad Jr. can't make the time. There's a spring training report date deadline on an extension. And Carlos Baerga says something's going to get done. I never know what Carlos Baerga is talking about. If he's just posting like what could happen, like this would be an interesting thing if it did happen. I'm not sure how we got to any of those points, but he says there's an extension in the works. They didn't talk between Christmas and like now. They got work to do. And if they don't do that work, then nothing is sillier than them paying Miles Straw's contract just to get some international money that they did not use on Roki Sasaki because he did not choose them. Santander is not in that camp. Santander is the best signing of the offseason, but that's because the other ones were trading for Andres Jimenez's bloated contract when no one knows if he's going to hit ever again, signing Jeff Hoffman after 2 teams spiked contracts with him due to medical concerns, and then getting Miles Straw to get additional international money for someone who did not want you. So yeah, Santander is the best move of the 4, but Man, the first three are bad, bad, and bad.
Yep. Not scared of the Blue Jays, much like I'm not scared of the Orioles. And the Orioles did not replace Santander's power, unless I guess you consider Tyler O'Neill that guy. But power from the right side of the plate is much different. And Tyler O'Neill also deals with injury troubles every single year. So that's it for the Blue Jays, I guess. Nolan Arenado, what are we going to do? Are we going to do this? Is this
I don't even know what, it's at this point, it's not even worth.
What would the discount be? The discount in the trade?
Yeah, presumably, because so John Mozeliak at Cardinals winter warm-up this past weekend, they obviously cannot find a landing spot for Nolan Arenado. This is crazy, but it's actually hard to trade an expensive player who everyone knows you don't want and who's trending downward. So it's actually quite a difficult job to do when the whole world, and spare me with all this talk about how he ruined his own leverage. He had no leverage. So I don't know there's nothing left to ruin. He wants to trade this man. If he's going to trade this man, he's going to have to come down on the asking price a little bit. And he said at the winter warm-up that getting Arenado done before opening day or before spring training is plan A, B, and C. They could not be more done with him. They want to get rid of his 3 years. Previously, we had heard that the Red Sox were the last chance for Arenado to get traded and find a partner ahead of opening day. They seem to have cooled significantly there if they were ever talking to him in the first place. If that was ever a match, it doesn't seem to be one now. It didn't make sense. We laughed at Boston for pursuing it. They may never have been pursuing it in the first place, in which case, good job, Boston. Alex Cora tweeted a check mark last night. Everybody's thinking they signed Alex Bregman, but maybe he's just an Ohio State fan, or maybe he just maybe he meant to tweet a party hat and he tweeted a check mark. I don't know what he's doing, but either way, I'd say Bregman way more likely in Boston than Arenado. That leaves the Dodgers, who he would obviously like to go to, and the Dodgers have the pitching to get a deal done, but do they want Nolan Arenado on their overstuffed roster and their baseball team? I don't think so. If they woke up and decided they did, it'd be over. But
I would trade for Max Muncy right now, dude.
Max Muncy's involved. Mookie Betts is in the infield. Tommy Edman, Hai-Sung Kim, Kike Hernandez is going to re-sign there. Freddie Freeman, you can't just put Nolan Arenado. You're going to move Muncy to second. Kim doesn't start. Moving Mookie Betts back to the outfield, even though he keeps bringing himself back to the infield.
Move Muncy to me. Move Muncy
to my team. I want him. Look, if that's the way this cookie crumbles, where the Dodgers get Arenado and we get Muncy, then that's fantastic. But in the meantime, the Yankees had reportedly barely even entertained an idea of an Arenado trade. But they have Goldschmidt. The insiders drummed up the interest for the 36 hours thereafter they got Goldschmidt, only for Jack Curry to say, no, not happening, never happening. There were rumors we offered Marcus Stroman early in the process. Jack Curry would indicate that those were not true. But if that was the case, our first offer was basically, we don't really want to do Nolan Arenado, but we will if you want to do some funny business with our most overpaid starter. And the Cardinals rebuffed them. Now that it's plan A, B, and C, though, you guys interested in Marcus Stroman plus a prospect? I mean, it wasn't that funny, was it? We're talking about funny. We're talking about using Marcus Stroman. How funny was it? Maybe it was pretty funny, but I think they'll only do an Arenado deal if the Cardinals feel like they're over a barrel and they're willing to re-engage on the Stroman part of it.
Yeah, I just thought it was funny when apparently they said it wasn't true.
It's just going to be every trade package we try for the next several months is going to be and also Marcus Stroman, we're putting him in.
Yeah. It was just for the Cardinals because, you heard of the rumors of the Cardinals are looking to shed other pitcher salaries. It's like Steven Matz and Eric Fetty or something. And then the Yankees come and offer Marcus Stroman and they're like, no, dude, this is not what we're trying to do. And the Yankees are like, well, Marcus Stroman though.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, shut up. But I think, again, I'm not opposed to this move if it's the right price. Nolan Arenado does not make this team worse. There are no other plausible third base options in terms of cost-effective nature, unless you think paying for Alex Bregman is worth it. I would be fine paying for Alex Bregman, on the record saying that. Do I care enough to go to great lengths to do it? Not really. I don't know what other options they have at this point. Again, it comes down to the spending, the fact that you're sitting here and you're looking for a new starting third baseman and you can't pull the trigger because you accidentally gave somebody $18 million last year is just like, what the fuck, man? Like, what are we doing? And Marcus Stroman's situation creates an awkward scenario for any opposing team acquiring him, right? Because he has a vesting option for 2026, where if he pitches 140 or more innings in 2025, he gets that $18 million salary for the following season. So, like, what are other teams going to do? Be like, we're not, you're coming here, we're voiding the vesting option. And he's like, no, I'm not doing that. Or you're coming here and we're going to just manipulate your innings towards the end of the year, and you're not going to hit 140, and you're not going to get that 18 million. So you're putting Marcus Stroman in it. I mean, Marcus Stroman's in a shitty spot regardless, because this year, if the Yankees keep him, he is not pitching 140 innings. They already did this dance with J.A. Happ, created all the drama and all the controversy with it. So the Yankees make their own problems, essentially. But another team is probably looking at that, and the Cardinals are probably one of them. They're saying, wait a second, we're giving up the last $50 million of Nolan Arenado's next 3 years for $36 million of Marcus Stroman's next 2 years? No, I'm not doing that. Why would I do that? And I don't blame him for saying that. But if, again, the price was right, if you attach a prospect, if you take on all of the Arenado money, if you take a pitcher in that deal, but what if they took Matz or Fetty and Arenado for Stroman and a prospect or two? Like, is that crazy? Like, they could use the depth. They're saving money on both. Well, I mean, they're not going to do that because they can't inherit more salary, right? They're trying to stay below 305, is it, or 303? So I don't know where they stand. I'm not opposed to Arenado, but again, the Yankees have created a lot of impossible situations for them to maneuver out of, and I just don't see it going their way unless they budge and they say, you know what, we'll pay the repeat tax penalty for match every dollar at this point. Is that where they're at in the luxury tax threshold right now?
Yeah.
Like, it's like every dollar over the last threshold, you're just paying you're paying double. So like if you're at the $310 million mark and the threshold is $303 million, so you're 7 over, you're paying $14 million instead of 7, which at that point is just fucking pay it, dude. What does it matter? And again, the payroll, said this last episode, the payroll figure does not reflect luxury tax payments until the final day of the regular season. So they could figure out ways to shed salary throughout the year if they really, I mean, that's not a desirable position to be in. But at this point, like, you have no leverage with some of these guys you're trying to get rid of. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, long story short, I would take Arenado. I would.
I will never reverse my initial take that it's not my preferred option, but it's January 21st now, and I think the regression is obvious, but I also think that DJ LeMahieu is nonsensical. So
yeah,
I maintain my position on this. Not for me. Don't love it, but those were December podcasts. This is January 21st. You don't have a creative solution, and Gleyber Torres is in Detroit. You're not going to do Alex Bregman. Do Nolan Arenado. Fine.
Podcasts can change, folks.
Podcast context can change. I'm saying the same stuff. I don't want to do, if you asked me to name 30 moves I wanted to do more than this, I could get there. But in the context of the offseason and what's actually most likely to happen, yeah, fine. Feed it to me. It's better than Yoan Moncada. So we'll see. We'll see where we're at, and maybe the Yankees have to do some deadline work that the Dodgers don't have to. But I think the Dodgers will have to. I think everybody's going to have to, because that's how baseball works. It's not rigged. Glad we're in the American League. And glad we'll see you again on Thursday, 2 o'clock Eastern. More chatter. We'll see you right here on this YouTube channel. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Rate, review us on podcast platforms. There's an audio version of this as well. It's going to make the part where some guy said do Jug D a little confusing because maybe you didn't see the comment, but go watch the YouTube version, and then you'll be like, oh yeah, he was trying to make fun of them, but he said Jug D. Now I get it. So you're gonna want both. You're gonna want the companions, the video and the audio. Hit us with the subscribe, turn the bell on. You'll know when we're going live. Join us on the audio version, on the video version. It's nice to see you. I'm Adam Weiner. You can find me on Twitter or X, the Everything app, at Adam Weinrib. Thomas Carinante, where can the people find you?
I'm at Tommy's_takes. Thank you guys for tuning in. Also, reach out to us at the official Yanks Go Yard account at Yanks Go Yard FS. Please like and subscribe. Like Adam said, head on over to yanksgoyard.com. That's where all the written content is. We are staying up to date with every Yankees development. Trust us. We're doing all of it. So if you want to read on one of our off podcast days, feel free. We'll have stuff on the site tomorrow, all day. Hall of Fame announcement tonight. Going to be stuff there. Guarantee it. Appreciate you guys reading. Appreciate you guys tuning in. As always, we'll talk to you again on Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern live right here. Do something, Yanks, and let's go CC. All right? Let's go CC tonight. Get him in.
He's going to get in. He's going to get in, which I was really worried about for a while, and we were getting people saying CC Sabathia was a compiler. Very impressive numbers, but not really an impressive career. Don't remember the career. But that's like, if you want to make that take, like that's Mark Burley. That's Don Sutton, who's in the Hall of Fame already.
I like Mark Burley.
I like all these people. I love baseball, but like calling CC Sabathia a compiler just because he pitched for a very long time ignores the experience of watching CC Sabathia.
Yeah, at that point you just didn't watch. You were looking at box scores.
2008. I mean, again, 2008, he led the Milwaukee Brewers.
That was one of the most electrifying seasons ever.
By being the most impactful trade deadline edition of all time, but they didn't make it out of the DS. So I guess if you don't really know baseball and you're just following the World Series match, then okay, why weren't they in the World Series? I don't know. A lot of things matter to cities that are not World Series championships, and that season was incredible. And then he comes to the Yankees. They win the World Series with a 3-man rotation. In 2009, CC, Pettit, AJ Burnett, and one of those three wasn't good. That's crazy. And also, before any of that happens, he is the ace of the Cleveland staff. He is a top draft pick. He is a top prospect, nurtured. He's a high strikeout lefty from 2000 to 2011. Like instantaneously from his debut, he is one of the best lefty pitchers and high velocity guys and nasty strikeout arms, wipeout sliders in baseball. And he gets some demerits, 2013, 2014, 15, knee injury, and eventually goes to rehab for alcohol addiction after 2015, and then puts up 3 more great seasons in 16, 17, 18 to help bring his career numbers where they need to be for Hall of Fame consideration. So I was worried he wouldn't be a first ballot guy. He's obviously a Hall of Famer. Argue with a wall. It's ridiculous. And it turns out he's going to get in tonight pretty easily. The compiler argument gets used on Andy Pettit too. And I just want to say, like, you're not watching baseball. If that's your view of the totality of Andy Pettit's career, did you watch the playoff runs? Did you watch 96, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 2009, 2003, like 2004 in Houston, 2005 in Houston? All he did was win important. If you want to call someone a compiler, that means they didn't have any moments that stood out. They just pitched for a really long time and built up numbers. Andy Pettit has more moments than people who were in the Hall of Fame. He's the anti-compiler. He's even less of a compiler than CC. And they have similar career numbers and equivalencies and like ERA relative to league. So CC's getting in tonight. Andy Pettit's going to jump like 15 to 20 points year over year. And he's got 3 more years left. And now the goal is you got to get him in. Because if CC's in, he should be in. But that's not a we're lowering the bar thing. It's an obvious Hall of Famer's getting in tonight. And then another obvious Hall of Famer should get in the next 3 years. So
get it right.
Also, Ichiro played for the Yankees.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Love Ichiro. One thing on CC, 5 seasons of 230 or more innings pitched. You don't fucking see that anymore. So that matters.
Yeah.
Just matters. And it's going to matter in a historical context. You know, you look at the Dodgers, like we said, blowing people's arms out. Nobody lasts for more than 120 innings. Like CC was a power pitcher in his prime in a time when offense was at its peak in, where was this, 2007 to 2011, something like that. Yeah. His chunk of 5 prime years, you will probably not see on many other people's resumes ever.
I mean, 2011 Sabathia was out of control.
Yeah. He should have won more Cy Youngs. I wish he did.
2007, 241 innings, 253 innings, 230, 237 and 2/3, 237 and 1/3.
And then 200 and then 211.
And you're leaving out the playoff innings. Like 2009 was 230 regular season innings. And then he gets to October and there are 3 starters and he throws 6 2/3 and 1 start in the DS. Good job by the Yankees sweeping. 16 in the CS, 13 2/3 in the World Series. We're getting a 260 inning season from CC Sabathia. And no, we're not inducting him on the basis of that one season. We're inducting him because he won 250 games and was one of the best pitchers in baseball for 14 years. I think everybody, I think there's room for high peak, guys whose career were derailed by injury. I think Felix Hernandez should be in. I think Andrew Jones should be in. I think all these guys except for Jacob deGrom should be in. Half kidding. That's unjustifiable to me. It's 4 years. But David Wright, I'd consider. Dustin Pedroia, I want to stay on the ballot. I want to talk about it. I'm a sucker. I'm a big Hall guy. But none of those guys should get in at the expense of someone like CC Sabathia getting in. You should still get a benefit for doing it for as long as he did. I think we should give more consideration to people we've been dismissing in the past.
Yeah.
But to be no, CC, yes, Felix. It's well, that's fun. I fundamentally disagree with that. But how about everybody? And let's start it by getting CC in. It'll be tonight. I think we'll probably do some fun CC chatter because there'll probably be some good Hall of Fame repercussions. And we'll talk about it on Thursday's show. But until then, take care, everybody.
See ya.
Baseball, it's great. Dodgers, bad.